So welcome to Snake on the Table. My name is Jerry Doris, and this is Tanner Cartwright, and we are elders at Reformation Church in Shelbyville, Kentucky. And we've just started this podcast to try to talk about topics that people don't typically talk about, or any topic really.
Yeah.
The sky's the limit on what we can do. So what's our first topic today?
So the first topic we want to talk about was, should pastors disagree in front of their congregation in the watching world? So I think there's this idea out there that pastors should always be in agreement or should show unity, in front of their congregation in the watching world. And to some extent, I think we would agree with that. But should pastors disagree on topics in front of their congregation? I think that's the idea.
Yeah,
So,
I would say that the nature of the disagreement is important, or the topic rather.
yes.
I mean, if this is first or second tier things and that divide the church, obviously you want to have those types of conversation. That would be, I think, analogous to parents fighting in front of each other. So it depends.
Sure.
I guess it would depend on the topic.
Well, for sure, like you mentioned, the triage of where the level of importance on the topic. Obviously, if pastors are arguing about whether or not the Trinity is accurate, in front of their congregation, you've got bigger issues.
Yeah, you have a really big problem.
But I think the reason that this topic was the one that's so natural for us to start this out is we've had a lot of people mention to us how unique it is, how different it is that at Ref Church we actually promote disagreement.
I wouldn't word it that way. We don't promote disagreement. We're okay with doing.
Sure, we promote the open discussion, so that if I remember specifically one time you were teaching and I had some disagreement with something you said, and so I just piped up, had a mic, and me and you had a disagreement just right there in discipleship hour in front of the whole body.
Yeah. And
we had a visitor, a good friend of ours, who just we didn't think anything about it.
Right. We just normal.
We never even, and then afterwards he was just blown away, and he has brought that up to me so many times about how much that, seeing that dynamic was just mind-boggling to him. The two pastors would disagree on a topic and respectfully kind of hash it out right there. And one of the reasons I think that people don't do that is because one of you sometimes is going to have to admit to being wrong.
Absolutely.
In front of everybody.
And you more often than me.
Well, sure.
That.
Yeah, I'll give you that. But if I disagree with you in front of the body and we go back and forth a little bit, and you show me that I'm wrong, I have to then admit in front of the whole body that I'm wrong.
Right.
And so there has to be a level of humility, which is fascinating, because you would think that pastors arguing is because of pride.
Right.
And yet there has to be a level of humility for pastors to kind of have that discussion and argument in front of everybody, because somebody's going to be wrong.
Yeah. I agree.
Often. So
I think this is also the genesis of even Snake on the Table. So Snake on the Table, the terminology it comes from. Tanner, you introduced that to us as an elders team. With somebody in your past that used to say that, let's just put the snake on the table. It's the uncomfortable thing that we should be talking about. Nobody wants to talk about. But what was happening in like the comment sections in social media, where you would put something out, and I might disagree, or vice versa, and I would make a comment, and then we would get people saying how refreshing that was, that we would talk this out and hash it out with everybody looking. And then we've had multiple people privately, and then even in the comment section, say, you guys need to do a podcast. You need to talk about topics together and kind of hash it out. So it's kind of cool.
yeah, sure. Now I think the latest one, I had posted something about the modern missions and that kind of idea, and you had commented on it, and that we kind of just, me and you were just messing with each other, but there's a gentleman had commented how refreshing that was, that he knew that we were both pastors, and on Facebook or social media, we were willing to disagree and hash those things out.
And we go one step farther, because we're men as well. I think if you're a pastor, you have to be a man. Yeah, but as obviously. Men, we debate as men, or we discuss things as men. So I might call in question your masculinity, or call you a name or something like that. Sure. And that's also something that nobody does. I mean, pastors in general, they're never going to do those ad hominem attacks, but they're fun. They're meant in jest. And I make fun of the fact you only have, you're missing a finger often. That's just it's good.
Yes, yeah. Men naturally do that.
Women cannot do that.
No, women can't do that. But it's been said that men insult each other and don't mean it.
Yeah.
Women compliment each other and don't mean it.
Right.
But men, that's the natural way that men just communicate with one another. And I think part of that is because me and you both we're bivocational pastors. We have full-time jobs. We've spent a lot of time just working and just being around normal men. And I think a lot of pastors, they don't spend enough time with just regular working men and women, and they kind of lose that dynamic. But this is the way men talk.
Absolutely.
They do. They make fun of each other. It's part of the gig. And so
there is a category of, I would classify as effeminate men that do not talk this way. They think it's wrong. And their speech has been so moderated, that they've lost the ability to recognize when men are joking and we're just bantering back and forth, and I think we can naturally separate the idea and what we're putting forward with the fun that we're having as we debate it and discuss it.
Yes. Yep. And as men, as being mature men, you have to learn and know where those lines are.
Yep.
There are things you don't push and joke about, and there's things that you do, and that's maturity. But that is it's a healthy way for men to communicate.
So is this pugnacious when we have those kind of discussions? Are we being harsh, and how would we catalog those things?
Yes,
those would be the accusations.
That's the accusation. So you have,
in
1 Timothy, the qualifications given for elders. One of the qualifications given is that he not be quarrelsome.
Yeah.
I think is the NASB translation.
Yeah.
And so that's the accusation, that we're being quarrelsome when we do this, that
Right.
we are trying to stir up fights and trying to be pugnacious or just controversial for controversy's sake.
Yeah.
And I think that's the accusation. And I think we would both be quick to say that it can definitely be a danger, that can be a ditch that you swerve into. But the reality is that, especially with me and you, if we're having something back and forth, I'm not trying to start a fight with you because I'm trying to, beat you or prove my point or whatever the case may be. We're doing these things in the pursuit of truth. We're doing them in the pursuit of what is right. And really, our pride has to get out of the way. So if you make fun of me and I make fun of you, and neither of us go home upset at each other about it, and it's because we don't take ourselves too seriously.
Yeah.
And so,
I would say there's a qualitative difference between someone having a debate and going back and forth, and then somebody who bursts out of their car in anger and is looking at a guy saying, and giving a litany of stuff, and he's saying things to get a rise out of somebody.
Sure.
I would see that as being combative and harsh and argumentative, and it comes from a place of puffed up pride.
Yeah.
So when we're I don't think it's coming from a place of pride. Although I think anybody who puts an argument forward, they think they're right, and so you can argue, well,
I would hope so.
Yeah, I hope you think you're right if you're going to present something.
Nut. Yeah.
So I see that there's a difference.
Yeah.
And you can recognize that. And we've even been in situations, even here, we're in the Hall of Fire here, where we've had men or people that you could tell that you just poked their pride by what was said, and now it's qualitatively different in their response. And so in those moments, we're like, hey, let's take a break here.
A soft anger turns away wrath.
Yeah.
You're careful about those things, but at the same time, this comes out when we've done public evangelism, and we are. How many times have we had people come up to us and say that there's something different about the way that we're doing it as opposed to the street screechers, we call them, or the people that have the signs, you're going to hell and all this stuff. And there's just they will be intentionally trying to make people angry so they can get that YouTube video or whatever it is. And there's a difference. We're not going to shy away from the gospel and argue for truth and fight for truth, but I have no desire to make you angry in order to make you look like a fool or whatever that case may be. Yeah. And so the reality is that when we look at these things, these commands from Scripture, don't be quarrelsome, and be gentle. Yeah, being gentle and all of those things. What we've done is we've made a standard that Jesus and the Apostle Paul and Peter, they don't meet. That's what we've done, because what Jesus, when he is talking to the Pharisees and he's calling them names and rebuking them harshly in front of everybody,
Yep.
I mean, every time he said, "Have you not read?" was a jab at them.
Yeah, that's how insulting to the scribes.
Yes,
and the
because
Pharisees.
they could open a scroll and put their finger on it and tell you what the letter was. They knew it backwards and forwards. They had it memorized.
Yeah.
And so every time he says, "Have you not read?" he's insulting them.
Yeah.
And he's poking at them.
Yep.
And so our tendency has been to make these standards, well, don't be quarrelsome. Well, all of a sudden that means don't argue for anything. That means all of a sudden we're not fighting for anything, and we would never, joke with a brother, and so it just becomes this standard that even the biblical authors and Jesus himself would not meet.
Right.
And so we need to be careful and think about that. So
let me shift gears here.
Yep.
So I think there's an issue of transparency that is refreshing. I think there's a way that pastors mask who they are and what's going on in their lives from their congregation that creates a us-them thing. And this is a lesson that I learned as a missionary. Many may not know this, but I was a missionary in Turkey for a number of years. And I was having a moment with a Turkish brother, and he just let his guard down and let me know how he feels about the foreign missionaries that are coming into Turkey. And what he said was that, this is a Turkish conversation, so he was talking about how the missionaries come in and they act like they have no problems and everything is perfect in their lives. Their families are perfect, their houses run well, they don't argue with their wives, they don't have indwelling sin that they're dealing with. And the only people that have problem are these poor indigenous Turks that they're trying to witness to and trying to disciple. And it was just I was hit by it. And since that time, I've just tried to pastor in a way that's just super transparent.
Yeah.
So I want to confess sin. I want to admit when I don't know the answer. I want to put forward what I think is right and allow it to be evaluated and be wrong. It's okay to be wrong.
100%.
And to be corrected and how to do that. And I think it's that transparency that just kind of is infiltrated my ministry, and I know it's part of yours, and really it's in the culture of Ref Church to just, hey, if I blew it, I blew it.
Yeah.
If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. And not that elders shouldn't have a right sense of who they are and walking in holiness.
Not that we shouldn't be careful.
Yeah.
But at the same time, that if we get all bent out of shape about being wrong, then we are never going to deal with things that we're not sure about, and we just don't know everything.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't. How many times have we in the Hall of Fire sitting in here and a theological topic comes up, and you're like, man, I haven't looked at that in 20 years. I need a refresher, and it's like,
especially when you have young bucks that are fresh on Hebrew and Greek and just read their Herman Bavinck, and they've got it all, they're tight.
Yes. Oh. Yes, and yes, 100%. So I don't know everything, and I think just that willingness to be like, I don't know everything. Let's go to the Word. Let's figure it out. Let's fight it out. Let's figure out what we believe.
Yeah.
And we may not agree,
yeah.
and that's okay.
Yeah.
Me and you disagree on several things,
Absolutely.
and we've worked through those things, and we still don't agree, but it is what it is.
Yeah. Now I will say, because we're talking about disagreement and those kind of things, you and I. We agree on 99.9% everything. We are so tight in terms of our theology and even not just that, our practice, our instant responses to crisis and stuff like that. And I often look to you to help me sharpen. And I think you look to me. We often are bouncing things off
100%.
each other because our initial reactions to something, we want to test those.
Yes.
And so that's done in private. Some of that time it's done in public, but anyways, but I think it's healthy for pastors to disagree in public, meaning during an open forum in our church setting. We have that in our discipleship hour. We have it here in the Hall of Fire, and then even online. I mean, if you're going to post something, and now there have been times where you and I, we've posted stuff, and then we've come back to each other and hey, well, that needs to come off.
Yeah.
We shouldn't have said that.
More you telling me that. But yeah.
I agree with that, but I just wanted to be fair.
You tend to be a little more strategic, but yeah, 100%. Where and I have never, in those moments, I trust you enough to be like, okay, you're right. Even if I disagree, I'm willing to take it down and we'll talk about it and deal with it and work it out. And it's not I don't have to be right.
Yeah.
And so I think people would think that fighting would not lead to unity, but like you said, me and you agree on almost everything.
Yeah.
And we have fought a lot.
Yeah.
And I think that has one of the reasons that we do unite so much. But we just have to.
Well, friendship and masculine bonds are they're made in the middle of a fight and battle.
Yep.
So that can be battle with one another, and that's you see that we're going to do that wrestle over ideas and methodologies and stuff, and we'll talk those things through, hash them out. But it also happens in evangelism. It happens in different contexts when the church is under attack, and I don't mean like physically, but like when we're working together, or there's something that's come against us, we unify under that. So. Anyways, I think this was a good topic. I don't know if we thoroughly covered it, but do you have anything else? Yeah, no,
I would just encourage any of the pastors listening to just try to promote this kind of culture and don't go in guns blazing because people are different. And frankly, I don't fight with you in the way that I would fight with someone else.
Right.
Even in our body, I'm going to be very gentle based on, if I'm up teaching discipleship hour, which is what we call basically Sunday school, and I have one of our ladies ask a question, or a young man, or this, that, and the other, I'm going to answer them totally different, or I'm going to be very gentle, as opposed to if you are coming at me and you're like, well, what about this? What about that? We're going to have a different conversation.
Yeah, you typically know because of the smirk on my face.
Exactly. You're either messing with me or being serious. Yeah, for sure. But just. While we encourage these kind of cultures, we want to be gentle, and we have to lead people along, and we don't want to be too sharp with those that we can't be.
I'll go ahead and say this. I've kind of made it a policy. I think you've made it a policy, and I've broke it already. But I don't want to debate women online.
Yeah. So I have done it some, but I've gotten to where, especially on Twitter, if I've got a lady who's trolling me or whatever, I've just kind of gotten to where I block her because it doesn't feel right arguing with ladies, because for one thing, you do need to be more gentle. I feel the need to be more gentle with ladies, but also there's no way to fight a woman in any context and to win.
Yeah,
because you're either beating up on a woman because you're destroying her argument, or if she's beating you, it's like there's no way to win an argument with a woman. It's like boxing a woman. Like there's no win situation.
Even if you win, you lose, and if you lose, it's even worse.
Oof, it's bad. Yeah.
You got school.
Yeah.
No, I say that we've got some very sage ladies in our congregation that just know the scriptures. We
got to be on our toes.
We have got to be on our toes. We love them.
They'll get us.
All right, let's call it for this one. I've set up not a website. Well, I did secure snakeonthetable.com. We'll figure something out to do with that at some point. But I do have a Gmail account, snakeonthetable@gmail.com. If anybody wants to send us a question that you want us to interact with, and of course we're going to post this on social media and different places, and hopefully get some people asking us some questions that will be willing to
put the snake on the
table and talk about it.
All right,
good. Take care.
All right.
Oh shoot! I forgot to hit record.
You're messing with me.